NoFap will not magically make you rich, but it will remove what keeps you poor. I know that sounds controversial, and honestly, I don't care if you disagree right now, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why this statement is backed by neuroscience, behavioral psychology, and the lived experience of thousands of men who transformed their financial situation by mastering one simple principle: self-control. Most people believe that NoFap is some kind of placebo effect, that money comes down to luck, and that success is reserved for people with talent or connections. All of these beliefs are fundamentally wrong, and they're keeping you broke. Here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. Wealth is built on three non-negotiable pillars: focus, discipline, and delayed gratification, and NoFap trains all three of them simultaneously. This is not some spiritual mumbo-jumbo or motivation porn. This is about mental leverage. And if you genuinely want discipline, focus, and financial growth, subscribe to this channel right now. Because what I'm about to share with you is not theory. It's a blueprint that separates the men who stay stuck from the men who build empires. Let's break down exactly how NoFap can change your financial trajectory. And I promise you, this will challenge everything you thought you knew about success. Let's start with the foundation. And the foundation of all wealth is discipline, not motivation, not passion, not inspiration, but pure, raw, uncomfortable discipline. You cannot build sustainable wealth without the ability to show up consistently, resist short-term temptations, and master your impulses. And this is where most people fail before they even begin. We live in a world that has been engineered to destroy your discipline. Everything around you is designed to give you instant dopamine with minimal effort. Social media notifications, junk food delivered to your door, pornography available at the click of a button, and every single one of these things is training your brain to expect immediate rewards without putting in any real work. This is the exact opposite of how wealth is created. Building wealth requires you to invest money today for returns in 5 years, to learn a skill for 6 months before you see a single dollar, to build a business that might not be profitable for the first year. And if you can't delay pleasure, if you can't sit with discomfort, if you can't say no to your impulses, you will never build anything meaningful. NoFap is the training ground for this exact skill set. Every single time you resist the urge, every single time you choose long-term vision over short-term gratification, you're strengthening a mental muscle that most men don't even know exists. Discipline is not something you're born with, it's something you train, and NoFap is one of the most effective ways to train it, because it attacks the root of impulsive behavior. When you can control your most primal urge, when you can sit with sexual energy and not immediately discharge it, you develop a level of self-mastery that translates directly into every other area of your life, especially money. If you can't delay pleasure for 30 days, how are you going to delay it for the 3 years it takes to build a successful business? If you can't resist clicking on a thumbnail, how are you going to resist spending money you don't have on things you don't need? Discipline is the difference between the person who talks about making money and the person who actually does it, and NoFap builds that discipline at a neurological level. Now let's talk about focus, because focus is the single most valuable asset you have in the modern economy, and most people are hemorrhaging it without even realizing it. Pornography and compulsive behavior create an invisible energy drain that shows up as mental fatigue, brain fog, and a complete inability to concentrate on anything that matters. You might not feel it in the moment, but over time, it compounds into a state where you're constantly distracted, constantly tired, and constantly operating at 50% of your actual capacity. When you start NoFap, one of the first things people report is a dramatic increase in mental clarity. It's like someone turned the brightness up on your brain, and suddenly you can think deeper, work longer, and execute without constantly getting pulled into distractions. This is not placebo. This is your dopamine system recalibrating, your prefrontal cortex coming back online, and your energy being redirected from constant stimulation to actual creation. Here's why this matters for money. Focus is a multiplier. 1 hour of deep, focused work is worth more than 5 hours of distracted, surface-level effort. If you can sit down and work on a high-value task for 2 hours without checking your phone, without opening a new tab, without letting your mind wander, you will accomplish more in that session than most people accomplish in a week. The people making serious money are not necessarily smarter than you. They're not working 24 hours a day, but they have the ability to focus intensely on the things that actually move the needle, and NoFap gives you that ability back. When you stop draining your energy through compulsive behavior, you suddenly have a reservoir of mental fuel that you can pour into learning a skill, building a business, or solving complex problems. And that's when the money starts to come, because you're not just busy anymore, you're effective. Most people confuse activity with progress. They're always doing something but never moving forward. And the reason is simple. They don't have the focus to work on what actually matters. NoFap removes the static, clears the noise, and lets you operate at a level that most people never experience. And here's the thing, most people try to improve their finances consciously. They read books, they watch videos, they make plans, but wealth habits are subconscious. They're wired into the way you think, the way you react, and the way you make decisions without even realizing it. If you want to reprogram the way you think and act around success at a subconscious level, check out the Subconscious Millionaire System in the description below. It's designed specifically to rewire the deep patterns that keep people stuck financially, and it's one of the most powerful tools I've found for this exact purpose. Let's talk about confidence, because confidence is the invisible capital that most people completely overlook when they think about wealth. NoFap doesn't give you confidence through some mystical process. It gives you confidence because you're keeping a promise to yourself, and every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build internal trust. Think about it. How can you trust yourself to build a business if you can't even trust yourself to stick to a 30-day commitment? How can you believe in your ability to create wealth if you constantly break your own word the moment things get uncomfortable? Confidence is not about feeling good. It's about knowing that when you say you're going to do something, you actually do it, and that belief in yourself changes everything. When you have genuine confidence, you make better decisions because you're not operating from fear or insecurity. You take calculated risks because you trust your ability to handle the outcome. You communicate more effectively because you're not seeking validation. And you naturally step into leadership roles because people can sense that you're in control of yourself. This creates a virtuous cycle. Discipline builds confidence. Confidence drives action. Action creates opportunities, and opportunities generate revenue. The man who is controlled by his impulses avoids challenges, makes excuses, and stays in his comfort zone because deep down, he doesn't believe he can handle discomfort. The man who has mastered his impulses walks into challenges with certainty, not because he knows he'll succeed, but because he knows he can trust himself to keep going even when it's hard. That's the difference, and that difference is worth millions of dollars over the course of a lifetime. Money flows to people who can create value, solve problems, and lead, and all of those things require a level of self-confidence that most people simply don't have because they've never proven to themselves that they can do hard things. Now we need to talk about something that sounds esoteric but is actually deeply practical: the transmutation of sexual energy. Sexual energy is one of the most powerful forces in human biology. It's neutral, it's potent, and most importantly, it's directional, meaning you can channel it toward whatever you choose. The problem is that most men are constantly discharging this energy through compulsive behavior. And when you do that, you never build up enough internal pressure to fuel long-term ambition, creative projects, or intense work sessions. It's like having a battery that's constantly at 20% because you keep draining it before it can fully charge. When you practice NoFap, you stop the constant discharge, and that energy starts to accumulate. And when it accumulates, it needs an outlet, and this is where the magic happens. You start channeling that energy into your business, into the gym, into learning a new skill, into building something that actually matters. And the intensity with which you can work when you have that energy is incomparable to anything else. This is not about becoming superhuman. This is about operating at your natural capacity instead of the depleted state that most men accept as normal. The energy that would have gone into 30 minutes of mindless scrolling and self-gratification is now being poured into 2 hours of deep work, into a workout that pushes your limits, into a creative project that could change your life. The direction of your energy determines the direction of your life. and NoFap is simply the practice of redirecting one of the most powerful energies you have toward creation instead of consumption. Here's why most people fail at NoFap and why they stay broke. They try to change the behavior without changing the underlying programming. They white-knuckle their way through a few days or weeks, but they never address the subconscious patterns that drive the behavior in the first place. Your habits are not surface level, they're wired deep into your subconscious mind. They're automatic, they're repetitive, and they run on autopilot unless you actively reprogram them. You can use all the willpower in the world, but if your subconscious is still programmed for instant gratification, compulsive behavior, and short-term thinking, you're going to relapse and you're going to stay stuck financially. This is why structure matters. This is why you need more than just motivation. You need a system that rewires the way you think at a subconscious level. And that's exactly what separates the people who succeed from the people who keep trying and failing over and over again. So let me make this crystal clear. NoFap doesn't make you rich, but it makes you the kind of person who can become rich. It builds discipline, focus, energy, and confidence, which are the exact foundations that wealth is built on. You can have all the strategies, all the opportunities, and all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't have the internal capacity to execute consistently, resist distractions, and delay gratification, none of it matters. NoFap is not the destination. It's the training ground. It's where you prove to yourself that you can control your mind, your body, and your future. And once you prove that to yourself, everything else becomes possible. If you're serious about rewiring your habits, your mindset, and your financial future at a subconscious level, check out the Subconscious Millionaire System in the description below. Because wealth doesn't start with a business plan, it starts in the subconscious mind. And that's where real transformation happens.